Good morning. It's really interesting to recognize that even as I am on my kind of journey, my sabbatical journey, that you are home and you are processing what God's doing in your life, walking with God, learning, growing. So it's encouragement to think about God has us on our paths and we'll weave our stories back together soon. Today I want to share out of Genesis 1 and next week out of Genesis 2. Strange that these would be some of my favorite passages, but they really are. Genesis 1, where would we be without Genesis 1? I just think in terms of Christian cosmology, how we're supposed to think about the world, the ultimate questions that every philosophy or religion has to answer. Genesis 1, Genesis 2, Genesis 3 answers. Why is the world the way it is? Why do we find ourselves in this world? How do I think about myself? What does it mean to be human? Where did everything come from? These questions are answered in Genesis 1. And I love the passage. It grounds me. Let me just walk you through Genesis 1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. God is before all things. The most real being in the universe, immaterial being, exists before anything material. And God then, out of his will and desire and pleasure, calls forth the heavens and the earth. And he begins to mold and shape it according to his good purposes. And it enters into God's telos, the eternal purposes of God. And in this creative act of God, these multiple acts of creation, each time that God creates and speaks something into existence, right? We hear the declaration of God. It is good. It is tov. Good, full. It's not incomplete, right? It's beautiful. It's what I intended it to be. And so we have light, and we have land, and we have sky, and we have animals. And then on the sixth day, we enter the picture. Let us create humankind in our image, male and female. And so we actually take on this new creation, human beings, the image of God. And what that means is we image God to creation as his regents. We rule for God in God's way, right? We're supposed to care for what God cares for. He gives under our charge. So we're governors or stewards of God's world. And our stewardship should reflect God's character. And male and female, we're not even named yet. This corporate humanity now images God to creation. And it's full as both male and female, that expression of the fullness of who God is to creation. After this image, these image-bearing creatures are created, God says, tov meod, which is very good, which is full and complete, right? And the idea of this creature now, in God's creation, he rests after these 6 days. The world that he has desired to bring into being now exists, and it's complete, and now God can rest. The seventh day of creation. I just think it's a beautiful way of thinking about the world. And it's also a beautiful way of thinking about human beings in a day where, again, we are defining our enemies, writing them off, treating people like dirt if they don't have our political view or a view of, mass restrictions or COVID protocol or blah, 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 right? Here we have a verse that grounds us and says there's not any person on earth that you can dismiss. There's not any person you'll meet that does not have inherent dignity. There's not any person here that isn't called into being by God himself. And all those people, though existing in brokenness, God actually sends Jesus for, and we all deeply need Jesus. The image bearers with the dignity of God are those that God is calling back into his redemptive program. Lots to think about here. I hope it is an encouragement to you today. Grace and peace to you.